Episode 4 of Daredevil Born Again is now on Disney Plus, and now that we're only 4 episodes in, I can now say I am enjoying the show so far. I do like where all of it is going. I like that this is taking it more seriously and being more dialogue heavy, just like the original show was. So this show does understand what a lot of people loved about the original series. But for me, this is still not quite as good as the original show so far, mostly because there are some parts of it that are kind of keeping me from saying that, like the green screen and the CGI in the action sequences. In particular, in the one take fight scene between Daredevil and Bullseye, which is still a great scene, but when they're outside, you can really tell that it's just green screen and some CGI for when Daredevil is making the stance and getting ready to get Bullseye. Like, it really does look noticeable, and you can really tell that some of it does look unfortunately cheap. And some of the action sequences so far, while are still pretty good, there are times, however, where you can see some quick cuts happen, which that's kind of baffling to see in this show, because the original show was praised for having some of the best filmed and choreographed action sequences. While there's still some of that here, but you don't really get a whole lot, and some of them are either quick cutted or with bad green screen. But those are just the first 4 episodes. We have yet to see some great action sequences later in the show where hopefully that they are both well filmed and well choreographed. So in this episode, we learn that Matt is trying to help this new client that got himself arrested for stealing food and went through some other issues before that, as well as Matt trying to figure out who killed Hector Ayala. He tries asking Powell because he's the guy that beat him up in that apartment, but when we hear his heartbeat about him not killing Hector, we find out that Powell is telling the truth. And we see Matt trying to find Frank because the guy that killed Hector was wearing a Punisher t-shirt, and when he talks to Frank, we find out that it's not him either. So Matt is still trying to find the real killer that killed Hector, while at the same time Fisk is still dealing with some issues with Vanessa after their separation and learns that she had an affair with someone named Adam, and Adam disappeared at one point, and I'm pretty sure we can tell what happened to Adam. And Fisk is unfortunately having to deal with going to middle schools and press conferences where kids sing "We Built This City" for him, which that was unexpected. Not bad, but unexpected and funny at the same time, where he unfortunately has to deal with people singing this song for him. Then we see a character named Daniel Blake who works for Fisk and unfortunately said some things to BB Urich at a party while they were drinking, and it kind of caused her to create this leak that's supposed to mess things up for Fisk. And when Fisk learns that he's the one that said those things, he decides to let Blake off the hook because he's starting to see something in him that might make him useful later in the show. But of course, he lets him go with a warning. If he does something like this again, then that will be the last thing he does in his life. Which could mean that maybe BB Urich is trying to ruin Fisk's reputation and make sure that he can go back to prison, because maybe she probably knows that he killed Ben Urich. So she's kind of going with a revenge type of thing where she's just leaking all this stuff and trying to ruin things for him and cause all the problems that he's dealing with because of that leak. Another new character that does become important throughout this show is Heather Glenn, who is dating Matt, but at the same time is also Wilson Fisk's therapist. So that could go badly for her because she's dating a blind lawyer and doesn't know that he used to be a crime fighter before Foggy died. But at the same time, he is also giving therapy to the mayor, who was also the kingpin of crime. So that kind of tells me that things might not go well for her at the end. Of course, I could be wrong, and they could go somewhere else with that subplot. As for Matt, he's trying to help this new client that got into trouble, who is not going easy on Matt, because unfortunately, he's only able to eat food in the garbage, and when he does find good food, he unfortunately finally has to steal it, which of course gets him into trouble by some bad police officers. Now, what he's doing is wrong, granted, but at the same time, you understand why, because the system has him fed up with everything that he's been going through, and this parole that he was given wasn't enough for him because he unfortunately has to deal with getting some garbage again, and that causes Matt to feel bad about what he did and showing more of what's changed about him. And he's also trying to figure out who killed Hector, and when he goes to this alleyway that Hector got killed in, he tries to look for some clues that are supposed to link to the person that killed him. Like, he finds a bullet with a Punisher logo on it that's supposed to lead to the sewer, and he decides to go into the sewer where he finds Frank's new hideout, where he eventually finds Frank, played once again by John Bernthal, and he is still awesome as the character. You can really tell that he is giving it his all as this character, and it's really great seeing him back in this show after seeing him in his own show and in season 2 of Daredevil. But unfortunately, he's only in this episode for one scene, which eventually they are gonna have him do more later in the show, and of course in his own special that they announced recently. And when Matt finds out that it wasn't really Frank that killed Hector, he tells them that it was just some random fanboy of his that did kill him, and Frank starts to notice something in Matt where he sees that he's not feeling like himself, because Frank knows what it's like to lose someone that he loved over the years because he lost his family before he became the Punisher. And when he sees Matt going through the same pain that he's had over the years, he tries to get him to confess that he's doing it because he hasn't recovered from Foggy's murder, because he really is still hurting after what happened to Foggy, and he hasn't mentally recovered from that. But it's also to show how Matt is trying to mentally recover after what happened to Foggy and learn how to be Daredevil again. We see him use his batons on the rooftop, which could mean that he's gonna be wearing his suit and be Daredevil again in the next 2 episodes, or he's just using his batons for his downtime. We see Fisk go into his hideout where no one is seeing him, where he passes the painting from the series that still has his blood on it. He's eating some unhealthy food while he also has Adam locked up next to him, meaning that he's been doing something terrible to Adam throughout these episodes without us seeing. Now we are introduced to one of the main villains of the show, Muse, which I really don't know much about this character. All I know is that he takes the blood from his victims and uses them for his art. So he's that messed up of a villain. I'm curious to see how the show uses Muse, not only to show how messed up he can be, but also see more of how he relates to the main story. Because throughout this show so far, we've been getting murals of Fisk, Punisher, and recently White Tiger that have Muse's name next to him. I don't know what they're supposed to mean, but they're supposed to mean something that will be explained later in the show, so we'll see how that is resolved. This show has been pretty good so far. I'm curious to see more of what happens in these next 2 episodes next week, if they relate to Muse, which I'm pretty sure they do, or they relate to Matt being able to put the suit on again. So guys, what do you think of this week's episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like this video, then please leave a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing, because it helps my channel grow. Hit the notification bell so you know what other videos I'm posting. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.